We're live.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the February meeting of the Athens in Motion Commission meeting, commission that exists to implement the Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan. And I'll pull up the agenda. So we have front-loaded the staff updates because we have Stephen Bailey here, and he doesn't want to hang out with us for 2 hours. He has other things to do. Just kidding. I know Stephen would like to hang out with us, but
I wish I could. I do wish I could.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and devote like 50 minutes up until about 5 o'clock to staff updates, and then we will get into some other items for our commission, including a T-SPLOST 2023 update. And then I've allocated 20 minutes for our committees because I know that a lot of us have been meeting and are doing a lot of stuff. So I just want to make sure we have time to talk about those items and give updates from those committees. And we will adjourn at 6 o'clock, and I will really try and have us be done by 6. Any additions or modifications to the agenda? If there are none, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
First, Randy, second, Teresa. All those in, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, same sign. All right, the agenda carries. That's a good thing. And next is our minutes from the January meeting provided by Blaine. Thank you, Blaine. And thanks for that link to our meeting stream there. So these are the minutes. Any modifications, edits, updates to our minutes from January 25th?
I thought they looked great.
So I'll count that as a first motion.
Yep.
And I will second the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Thank you again, Blaine. And so I didn't realize this until I was trying to get this agenda together, but we didn't take any minutes for our special called meeting on repaving. So I thought maybe for now, that was recorded, so we have some record of it, but I thought maybe Daniel and I could just give a brief summary of what we discussed. Stop sharing my screen. But Daniel, you reminded me when you were responding to Ronnie. So basically we approved to pursue design services for Westchester Drive and Baxter Street. And yeah, and we mainly talked about bike lanes on south side of Baxter. Does that sound right, Daniel?
Yeah, and Westchester going uphill.
And Westchester.
And
yeah.
Then we talked about some safety improvements along areas that are being repaved. And so verbiage that I sent, and of course I'm like trying to find it now.
For the verbiage you sent to Ronnie?
Yeah.
Okay, here's what you said to Ronnie. Athens in Motion, do you want me to share that? Because I have it pulled up.
Oh, yeah, you could just say it. I don't
Okay, Athens in Motion voted unanimously to pursue design services for Baxter Street and Westchester Drive segments for potential additions and improvements to of bike lanes. Our discussion focused on adding bike lanes on the south side of Baxter. We spent a lot of time talking about that, heading eastbound and uphill on Westchester Drive. They also voted on the addition of any safety features as necessary that could be implemented during repaving or restriping activities. And something else that we brought up, Westchester Drive is currently, if T-Splosh passes, will receive sidewalks because the neighborhood submitted sidewalks and the mayor and commission, the committee approved that and the mayor and commission put it on their final list. So this is a separate type thing, and I want to make sure that we communicate with the folks who live on Westchester Drive when they see that restriping happening, that they don't get confused and think that we did not understand their project or what their intention was in submitting for sidewalks in their community. So I have to outreach to them and I'll try and mention that. All right. Anything else to add about special call meeting, Daniel or commissioners?
I don't think so.
Lauren, I'm happy to go back and since I wasn't able to attend that meeting, watch the video and put some minutes if we want to make sure that's documented.
That could be helpful. I will also, I mean, the way Daniel described it to Ronnie, that's pretty much what happened. Those were the action items. So Daniel, do you mind if I forward that to Blaine? That
Yeah,
email?
no, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Blaine.
I'll quote you on that, Daniel.
Perfect.
We are on track. So next item on our agenda is our staff update section. And Todd, we'll start with you if you're ready. I know it's kind of early.
One thing, Lauren.
Yeah.
We actually do have a public comment.
Wow, of course, we have a public comment because I bypassed it. All right.
It's
Thank you,
okay.
Daniel.
We never get them. It's not. So it actually, I think I went ahead and forwarded this on to Greenway Commission because I think it has more to do with leisure services. But the comment is from Thomas Adams on Mitchell Bridge Road. He said, please address the issue of lack of access to the Greenway Trail due to Mama's Boy employees parking most of the day in the leisure services parking and their customers taking up the few remaining parking spaces. Each parking space is clearly marked park and trail parking. Thanks. So, not much that we can do from this standpoint. Todd, do you want me to forward this to you?
You can. We don't have any enforcement powers to ticket people for parking, so
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know that was kind of one of the issues that we have. So,
Wasn't
but
there
I
some
don't.
kind of a deal to share the parking with them? Like they get half and leisure services gets half or something like that?
no, there's no deal. They just use it.
Okay. Seems like a revenue opportunity for the county.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if we can do one or not. I don't know.
Yeah, this is
I
this
mean,
is
it's
hard.
obvious we do game day parking, so there's obviously the ability to do that. So I'll forward it on to Rose and Kent and Mel. So
Yeah, free parking. Yeah, anytime that there's free parking anywhere, there's going to be an issue. I think it takes a community holistic approach to really make parking work, which is, I guess, beyond our scope right now. But thank you, Thomas, for submitting your comment. We're going to pass that along.
Yeah, and I actually worked on something for Mama's Boy in grad school, and it was parking. And one of the things is that any parking lot within a certain distance from the front of your restaurant, any publicly available space can be counted towards, because basically I think the volume that's allowed inside your restaurant is on one hand dependent on the size, but also dependent on the number of parking spaces you have. And so I think it's within the ordinance that basically says, you have to, in order to have a certain amount of customers and tables, you have to have a certain amount of publicly available parking nearby. And so because that is a public lot, they use that towards their seating ability within inside the building, I believe. But
Yeah. Yeah,
sorry,
there's
go ahead, Todd, if you want to start your update,
All
unless
right.
there's anything more.
No, that's it. The cemetery trail is moving right along. They have completed a lot of the right there at the bridge, the cemetery bridge. They've completed a lot of their structural underground kind of work, the rock sockets and all that stuff that I couldn't tell you exactly what that is, but they've got all that completed. So now they can start putting the I guess the tunnel pass up under the bridge and start doing that kind of work. And they'll continue pouring the concrete trail towards the bridge area. And then the next thing is the Cars Creek Greenway segment. I believe the let date is fall, summer of 22 of this year. So that's the piece that will bring us over to Carriage Lane, and make it a little more so that you won't have to climb that big hill to get up to the Carriage Lane area. You'll actually be able to have a more accessible route and a easier ride for bikers and walkers. So that's
nice. So you're going to take out a hill for us? That's
yeah. Well, it's
delay.
actually it just snakes around it actually snakes around that big hill.
Nice.
There's apartments and the fraternity house sets on, and so it comes around the base of it, goes across the creek, and then comes out to Carriage Lane.
Yeah,
then
I always get to that point and go, do I climb the hill or do I just turn around?
And then as part of the plans, we have ensured that we connect the greenway to what is new Thumpa Drive, which is the Carriage Court Apartments. And then we made sure we've connected the greenway to Barnett Shoals via a paved path or paved sidewalk connection. So it'll tie into those improvements. We may not get our trailhead there, but it'll all depend on pricing, our parking, and that kind of stuff. The Oconee Street bridge replacement, DOT right there at Dudley and Mama's Boy area. DOT has it on their schedule for an October 22nd let of the 20 of this year. But that's all contingent on if DOT has the money and everything. But that will get our greenway connection beneath Oconee Street right there between Dudley and Easley Mill. And so that's a couple of years out to that's completely built, but it's making progress.
Todd, for those of us who don't know, can you tell us what it means in the process to let something? Does that mean put it out for bid for contractors?
Correct. Let is when when DOT advertises it for bid. Is what that means. So, and then
this is Aaron. Sorry, I'm driving again, and seems to be a trend, the meetings. But with that bridge replacement, are they going to have to build a secondary temporary bridge for traffic, or are they going to? Okay.
They're going to, I believe they're going to try to do lane shifts on the bridge or something. Is that I'm not familiar enough, but they're not building a secondary bridge, no. But I believe they're not shutting down the bridge completely either. Stephen,
If I remember correctly, that's actually two bridges side by side, and they're replacing one at a time.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks.
And then on Firefly Trail Phase 2, the RRFB mid-block crossing that will tie over to the Transportation and Public Works parking lot to provide some weekend and evening parking was put on the agenda. So that one's progressing forward as well. So Stephen may know more about that than I do, but it's moving forward. And then the Firefly Trail Bridge, they did have some delays with the steel because originally it was set to steel was starting to be set on the 28th of February, but they had some fabrication delays, and so now it'll be March 28th before they start setting the arches at the Firefly Bridge. But all the structural concrete's in and prepared and ready to receive the arches. So they will in March. It looks like they'll have to close the switchback ramp for about a week or so that they can get some drainage in, and that'll be something that we'll advertise when it gets closer. But they'll have to shut it down for about a week. So, and that's pretty much the projects that because Firefly Phase 3 is just still they're still acquiring easements on it. So.
Okay. Yeah, I had someone asking about phase 3. Thanks for the heads up about the switchback being closed. So what is the RRFBs that you said the Transportation Public Works lot? Where are you talking about, Todd?
The Spring Valley Streets and Drainage office there.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So it'll be an RFB, so a mid-block that would, so people can park in that pretty large and unused parking lot, and then go straight across to the new section.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Where there's that big intersection, you know, it's currently where the Greenway or the Firefly almost ends. It's a very busy intersection. I can't remember, I wish I could remember the name of the road. I want to say it might be Spring
Indian
Valley.
Hills. Is it
Hancock.
Indian Hills?
So the first major intersection
Oh,
you get to
Hancock.
has a light. And it just seems like that at some time in the distant future, that might be a great roundabout. There's room for it. And that might be a way to, you know, better accommodate the Firefly Trail and make it safer, because it looks like a pretty dangerous intersection from a driver's standpoint in terms of the speed. And there's a curve they come around and all that. I don't know, just observed it when I was out there the other day.
Yeah, so
Indian
we're
Hills
talking.
and Winterville Road.
Okay, wait. There's a couple intersections here. So are we talking about like Hancock Road in Spring Valley where streets and drainage is, or are we talking about
Before
Indian Hills?
west of that or southwest of that. Sorry about that. I should have.
Wait, well,
You're
where's
saying where the light is, Mark.
Yeah, where the light is, exactly.
Yeah, so
where's
that's Winterville.
the RRFB going?
The RFB is going at the location for right across from streets and drainage. Mark is just mentioning that there's a good future potential roundabout location, right?
Yeah, Spring Valley and Winterville Road.
Okay, yeah, I was just trying to figure out where that is because, you know, we have Hallmark community is back here and there are some kids and
Yeah, that's a complicated crossing there for the kids
yeah.
to get from the trailer park onto the trail.
Mhm.
So there's a
Todd,
sidewalk.
that's
I
where
think
we'd look.
Go ahead.
Just gonna say, Todd, that's where we'd looked at designing and working with traffic to figure out what we can do for PEDs there as well.
Correct. That's going to be part of the phase 3 design work, I believe.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks for working to provide, you know, access to more of our residents and visitors to the trail. We certainly want them to know and to feel that it is their trail. All right, now we're running low on time before we lose Stephen. Thank you, Todd. So Daniel, I'll turn it over to you and let you prioritize your order of items.
All right. One thing that came across my desk recently was, this is kind of a continuation of leisure services, but there was a CDBG grant, that's Community Development Block Grant. And there are 4 projects for trails and open space that they submitted, and they got funding for some of them. Ultimately, I think the funding can be used kind of towards all the projects. And so the 4 main projects are traffic calming on Trail Creek Street, College Avenue Greenway Trail Crossing, RRFB, and Elizabeth Street improvements, Little Oak Street Trail and crosswalk with RRFB, and a Walker Park crosswalk to pump track. That last one is a crosswalk across a park drive. So that one's not one that we would necessarily have anything to do with. It's kind of connectivity within a park. But the traffic calming on Trail Creek Street, that would include some raised crosswalks, thermo striping, and they also mentioned rumble strips. I still have to talk with traffic engineering to make sure he's fine with all of those. The College Avenue Greenway Trail crossing, that is the location. Actually, I can do a screen share, and they already have maps in here. So these are the proposed locations for the raised crosswalks. Basically right here at the three-way stop, a lot of people blow through that stop sign. And this is where a mountain bike trail already crosses across the street here. So we'd put in a raised crosswalk at that mid-block crossing. So that's one of them. And then this is the existing crosswalk on College Avenue. This area did get restriped recently. I'm not sure if the crosswalk looks exactly like that now, but they want to put in a RFB at this location. Right now, there's just kind of the blinking, flashing light overhead, and that's not up to standard anymore. You can see the existing one here, and this is a street view of where people kind of park in the trail, I guess. And then the the third project is a proposed crosswalk from the Firefly Trail to Little Oak Street, and it would go across the street. And this would also include like a trail connection. Yeah, this last one is the one on park property. So I just wanted to run to just let you guys know about those. Any questions on that particular project? All right.
Thank you.
The next one is parklet concepts. So Tim and I presented to the GOC last night. Is that the Governmental Operations Committee? Cool. About parklets. So Central Services has been working on an ordinance with a lot of different departments. We have police, traffic engineering and bike ped, the attorney's office, and essentially it's kind of, mayor and commission want to make parklets a more permanent thing. So we have been doing some research and we presented kind of our findings. I'm just going to focus on what I presented on my portion, which has mostly it's just about the way the bike lane interacts with it. Staff's recommended option, and I believe we've talked to you guys about some of these things, but staff's recommended option was to do a crosswalk, basically create a barrier for the majority of the parklet with one controlled access point, and that would be painted across the bike lane. Police department and traffic agree that the pedestrians need to yield to the bikes because people who are using the parklet are going to be in a better situation to have an eye on the bike lane to make sure they're not walking out into traffic. So normally, with mid-block crossing kind of things, you would expect the pedestrian would have the right of way. But in this case, we wanted to make sure that the bikes had the right of way because they have less time to react. So there would be signage both for the pedestrians as well as for the cyclists. And our main thing was we didn't want to zigzag the lane in and out of traffic. We wanted to keep it protected, keep it buffered, and we wanted to keep it where it's currently at. You know, it could be, you know, $20,000 or $30,000 to pay a contractor to come in and restripe this whole area to divert a bike lane around a parklet, only to have them say after 6 months, oh, you know what? Actually, that wasn't. Um, we're tired of doing this, so we're going to close the parklet. And so then we have to go back and remove all that striping, and that doesn't really come easily either. You basically have to grind the asphalt down, and it's really hard to get rid of it. Um, so yeah, creating a protected barrier. In this case, I show it crossing at a spot where there's already a curb cut, but another point of conversation was ADA accessibility. Um, the attorney's office once felt like parklets need to be mandated ADA accessible as well, which means that some ideas, if there's not a bike lane in the area, you could like have an ADA ramp from the curb going down into the parklet, or you can build your parklet up to the same level as the curb. But that gets tricky when there's a bike lane. So what we proposed for that solution is a rubberized speed table that would basically um, go onto the bike lane so that the bikes are going over the speed table, and now that ramp is at, you know, curb height, and that way, you know, there's not like a weird edge of a ramp that you could potentially run into. And then once it's in the parklet, they have to figure out whether they're going to build up the level of parklet or ramp down to the surface. Any questions there?
Just ask that it be a fairly gradual onto that rubberized thing, just so it doesn't like launch you up in the air. It is downhill there, and I think, you know, you could have signs for scoring people as they hit that ramp.
Hey, Mark, I want to get
Yeah.
some air as I go down Hancock. Don't mess up
Exactly.
my opportunity to fly.
Big air, that's right.
So I did pull up, just in case they ask, this is kind of that typical um, section of a speed table. So I think we would require certain conditions be met. We wouldn't want like a 45-degree angle up to a
That's what I'm
flat
asking.
surface.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I'm asking. Yeah.
So yeah, we would make sure that it's and we're looking for a rubberized speed table that could be removed if they choose to stop doing it. That way we can use the same speed tables. We're still trying to find one that is the width of a bike lane, but you know, that's not really I think that's within the traffic engineering, so they're handling that bit. Moving on, any other questions with that? All
Yeah,
right.
thanks for your work on that, because
Yeah.
I think the parklets are great for Athens, but we also want them to interface with our infrastructure. So I appreciate there's a lot of detail stuff here that people don't think about, and I appreciate your work on this.
Yeah. So I want to give another raise grant update. And before I do that, let's see. Stephen, did you have anything you specifically wanted to update? I know you're compressed for time.
Nothing really. I was just really going to answer questions if there's anything specific that I could help with. And I can stay on about another 5 minutes. So if there's anything specific you think you need me to help answer a question on, if you want to jump over something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so the brief thing with the raise grant, we had a debrief. Here's that project scope. We had a debrief with the Ray staff. Our project was, it came highly recommended. It scored, and they said only 30% of projects got highly recommended. So we did really well. They didn't identify any weaknesses in the proposal. But when they did the benefit cost analysis, there were some things with our calculation that they weren't sure of. So they reran it with their data, and it came out as a 0.6, whereas before we had scored a 1.2. So it needs to be a 1 for it to basically be funded. So this time around, I think last time I talked about doing some different proposals. Ultimately, I think we are pretty confident that with the amount of focus we're going to put in on the benefit cost analysis and justifying that analysis, we will hopefully get it this year. So we're going to do one capital grant request, which will be this section. And we may make some adjustments to it a little bit. But you know, we're having conversations with GDOT and stuff to figure out, you know, with the bridge over here on the loop, and if we want to keep the same scope. And then they are giving out more money for planning grants, though. Typically, they do $10 million in planning grants, and so this year they're doing $75 million. So I felt like we could do like two other planning grants and then this one and see how that goes. I haven't done enough research on the planning grants to know kind of what that entails. I know it is it's a slightly different application process, but we still want to get 3 applications in just because I think it could, you know, might as well get as much as we can.
This is the year to do it.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to roll right into, or is there any raised questions while Steven's here?
Yeah, just some clarification on North Avenue. So the shared use path, it's a little bit blurry, so I'm sorry. It's a 12-foot path was what we're thinking. And then there would be a buffer between the path and the street, right?
I believe so. I think it depends on the
Landscape
specific
buffer, okay.
location. Yeah.
Okay, I can see it a little bit better. And of course, this is important. We have sidewalks on both sides of the road, mostly on North Avenue. We don't have any bike facilities, but a man, Stephen James Pugh, lost his life. He was walking on the sidewalk and a woman struck him. So I think that this is becoming even more critical. And this is an example of where we have some facilities. And so to the public, or maybe some members of the public, they may think, well, like there's sidewalks there, isn't that enough? But with the speeds on this road, it's just not enough. So I'm grateful to your persistence, Daniel and Stephen, on this corridor. I know that it sounds like we were closer than we thought, and I'm glad that we're just going to keep trying for this raise grant.
Daniel, could you-
It's a little frustrating because the woman who did the debrief with us is really nice. She paused at some point and said, now this is the point where I'd really tell you, here's what you need to change about your narrative. She said, you don't have anything to change about your narrative. Send this back in as is. You are poised for this grant. And there's actually when Build went to raise and with the new administration, and there's actually a new scoring metric this time around that hasn't been in the past that talks about communities. It's equity in communities who have been separated from, neighborhoods who have been separated from the community, right? And she said, this is exactly what we're talking about. It's a historic project, the loop, that basically cut these communities off north of downtown Athens. And if you didn't have a vehicle, you had no access. And so it's all written in. So she said, this is almost like it was written, the new criteria is written for you all. So I feel as long as we can get that benefit cost ratio, as Daniel pointed out, if we can really focus on that I think we've got a great shot of this.
Daniel, would you share that that graphic with the group?
Sure. Yeah, this map.
Yeah, it's really great. I just can't see it.
Okay.
Thanks.
And
if y'all run into,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you Daniel, if you run into anything else you need me on, shoot me a text. I can still answer text during the next meeting, and I'll also can follow up with an email if there's anything specific y'all need me to answer.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for joining.
Great. Sure. Thanks, y'all. Hopefully I can stay longer next time.
Okay. Bye, Stephen. Have a good night. And
Bye,
Daniel, we're keeping, this is still going to be, I think, District 9, right? Or it's District 9 for now. We're keeping Commissioner Thornton in the loop on this because I know that there was a T-SPOS project that folks were excited about, but the committee had not voted it on because we thought we were going to get raised. So I just want to keep up their hopes and keep them in the loop.
Yeah, I have not. That would have been a great question for Stephen. Um, I'm not sure in what ways we can reach out to mayor and commission. Um, I think if you guys are talking to the commissioners, there's definitely room to discuss it.
Okay, that makes sense
We
that would be our role as
we
a
might be able to send a memo. So I'll just make a little note for myself.
yeah, or whenever that's appropriate. I just want to make sure that we keep them in the loop.
And I will be approaching her. I'm going to be reaching out to the previous year's letters of support, with basically like, hey, we're doing it again. We got really great feedback. We need another letter of support. So I was going to do that earlier on than last time. And also the deadline has changed. It's now in April. It was in July last year. So that comes down from the likelihood of that shifting is very low. That comes from Congress. It's written into the bill for the infrastructure funding. So
Okay, yeah, thanks
yeah.
for the heads up on that. Because I guess we'll
So
want to
I think
that.
it makes sense rather than sending a memo with that update. It makes sense to just say like, hey, we're doing a letter of support again, and I'll reach out to her as well as Mayor Gertz and seek his help for reaching out to the local and statewide politicians again.
Perfect. Sounds great, Daniel. I'm really optimistic this time.
Me too. I wish they had like called me and been like, hey, this thing looks weird. And we'd be like, oh, let's see if we can fix it. But they can't operate that way. So
Yeah, it's great. I mean, T-SPLOS is once every 5 years, but Ray's grant is eternal. Year.
All right. Next item. I know within the emails, there's been some discussion about Vision Zero coming up. So I wanted to let y'all know kind of our current progress on Vision Zero. We submitted a request for Vision Zero specialists in December. And then last month, we met with Bob Dallas and Sam Harris about a future Vision Zero plan and kind of our next steps forward. We're doing this because we feel like the case for a Vision Zero specialist is really strong. And, as long as that goes through, we really need to hit the ground running with getting that Vision Zero plan put in place. There's a lot of funding opportunities out there for communities who are a Vision Zero community. And that being said, we also want to make sure that the new Vision Zero specialist has a say in that plan. So Sam Harris, he's the GDOT state safety engineer, and Bob Dallas is he's a civil lawyer, and he has a ton of experience in implementing like public health and safety behavioral programs. He used to be, let's see, he's got 20 years in public health, 16 years as planning commissioner, 8 years as a highway safety director, and he has focused on Vision Zero. He's on so many committees. I couldn't keep up with typing it when he was kind of telling me and everything. So, but he's got a ton of experience with this, and he actually helped Macon Bibb put their Vision Zero plan together, and Sam Harris is the one who put us in touch with him. So once we have moved on like to our next step, we'll probably we're going to reach out to him, and hopefully he can come and help us kind of create that outline for a plan in the future. our next steps are to, oh, okay, let's see. I'm reading through my notes right now. So Make and Bib developed their Vision Zero plan. They did not have a coordinator on staff when they did that. So now they're trying to hire one because they really need someone who can coordinate all of the plan implementation. So that's why we wanted to go ahead and get the application in first for getting that position outlined. Atlanta is currently working on their plan. I don't have an update on that. I know that their coordinator is the woman. She was struck at a conference in an intersection, and she's received a lot of different. I think she's actually still up in Chattanooga because she can't be transported. So she's been in critical condition for months, and I think she's working through some traumatic brain injury right now. And so I'm not sure if someone else is doing their plan in the meantime or if it's just kind of on hold while she's working through that. But yeah, so Atlanta would be the second community. So we're definitely still ahead of the curve in most communities here in Georgia.
So when people ask us and when, elected officials ask us like what we are doing to help with the high number of people who have lost their lives on Athens roads, this is the answer. Of course, there's some things that we can't share just yet. I mean, like we don't have the Vision Zero person. We haven't earned that. We haven't gotten that position yet. But Daniel, I know this is a little bit in the weeds, but what can we on this commission do with regards to this issue now? Like, what do you think would be best for us? Because we've been kind of quiet about the people who have lost their lives. We haven't really
Absolutely.
had a response, and I think that we're starting to feel like we want to say something or do something and be effectual as a commission.
Can I share
Yeah,
something? Can I share
absolutely.
something about this? Because I spent some time looking at Vision Zero today. So I'm going to share my screen if I can figure out how to do that. Preferences. I'm having technical problems again. Oh, I can't do it with this stupid screen. That's right. Forget it. There's a Vision Zero organization. I have this dumb MacBook Air and it doesn't do anything. And the Vision Zero organization, I can't remember what they're called. Daniel, I'm sure you know. Vision Zero Action Plan, Vision Zero Network. That's what it is. And they have a website. It's easy to find. But they got 5 values that they talk about, which include traffic deaths and severe injuries are acknowledged to be preventable. Human life and health are prioritized within all aspects of transportation systems. Acknowledgement that human error is inevitable, but transportation systems need to be forgiving. Safety work should focus on systems level changes. And I think that's really the hard one right there, above and influencing individual driver behavior. And then speed is to be prioritized because that's the fundamental factor in crash severity. So I think that getting those vehicle speeds down is going to take a huge village. And then I wish I could share this, but you basically need political commitment. So you got to get your mayor, your city manager, your police, everybody who has some interest in, the walking and biking part of the transportation system. And, yeah, we need to develop that action plan. We need to take into account how minority areas tend to have the worst record in terms of safety. And there's a whole lot of things that need to be done. And I'm glad we're going to get a coordinator because it is a big job and it's an important job. And it should not just be, Athens in Motion commissioners talking about it every once in a while. So yay, go Daniel. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And just to kind of piggyback on that, GDOT is not eligible to be a Vision Zero community because they're a statewide organization, but they are trying to make things easier for communities. So they have a safety plan that they have put together and they're working on. Some of the Vision Zero's kind of prerequisites or requirements. I'm not sure if they're prerequisites or not, but having electronic crash reports, there's some communities that don't have that, and GDOT has made that so easy for us now. We have a central database for all crashes across the state. And every time I meet with them, they tell me about some new tools for analysis or analytics, looking at crashes, and getting that data so that we can make data-driven decisions. Now, you kind of hit my next bullet point, Lauren. So, what can you guys do as a commission? I'll start off with you. You can't we can't ask you to go and support this position. I think I don't know what that's called, but we can't do that. But let's see. Hold on just a second.
But it is a fact, commissioners, that we do support this position.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
So we
Sorry
could
about that.
probably, of our own accord, when the time comes or if it's appropriate, when it's appropriate, write a letter of support for the position.
No, so you can't necessarily do anything for advocating, I think, for the position. But what you can do is just bring up the importance of Vision Zero, highlight the need. It's similar to the whole T-SPLOS thing, right? You can't go out and hold up signs saying vote for T-SPLOS, but you can educate people about the importance of Vision Zero, highlight the amount of funding that's available for Vision Zero communities. I think, reading through some of the takeaways for our next steps are to read through some different Vision Zero plans and outline our plan based off of that. So, New York City has a Vision Zero plan. Would it make sense for us to just copy paste? Probably not. I think there's a lot of things in New York City that apply there that wouldn't apply here. But there are some plans in San Jose, Portland, St. Lauderdale, DC, New York City. But then there's also Macon, Bibb County, and just a whole bunch of other communities. I think there's actually on the web page, Vision Zero Network page, it has a list of different communities. And I mean, honestly, if you just Google Vision Zero plan, you'll get a whole bunch of results. And so I think, Teresa, you kind of hit the nail on the head with reducing speed, you know, and 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 then kind of pairing along with that, it's not just about reducing the posted speed limit, because that doesn't really do much to actually reduce speed. It's about changing the context of our roads. Our roads were all essentially designed to make it easier to drive cars on. And at no point, in the past 50 years, any roads that were built since then have all been focused on cars. Whereas, if you look over in Europe, they have pedestrian networks that have been in place when walking was your main form of transportation. So, it's hard when you have stroads and these big highways like Atlanta Highway and Lexington, and what can we do to make those areas safer. But I think with this plan, it would, that'll help us outline some different approaches and give us some metrics to aim for. So
Okay, so we can educate and inform about
Yes.
Vision Zero. Okay.
Oh, Vision Zero as a whole. Like it, I think it would be really helpful for all of the commissioners to know the importance of Vision Zero, what it means, and what it could mean for us.
Right. So at some point, and I'm not saying we should do this real soon, given how up in the air everything is with the commission right now. But I think it would be useful if Athens in Motion could write a letter saying, that we would like to see a Vision Zero plan or program for Athens. And then, here are some of the things that would need to happen in order for it to succeed. We wouldn't have to say we need to have a staff person, but just say, we need to have someone who could coordinate between, police and transportation and traffic engineering and transit and, yada, yada, yada.
Well, and just asking for the plan in itself,
Mhm.
says we need to have a Vision Zero plan, and then when they come talk to staff, we say we need to have a Vision Zero staff person to make a plan, and that's what we've already done this past with this quest. So fingers crossed. I mean, I think it'll get some good traction, but I think it's definitely you know really important to highlight that. As far as I know, we've had one traffic fatality so far this year, and I think at this time last year we had already had several. Um, so there's no way to really predict, what's going to happen. But uh, I've been glad to not not be met every week with a new one. Um,
Okay, so then, because I think we can wrap up our later item on Vision Zero discussion here, so I just want to make sure that we know what we can do. So this does educating and informing like the public look like sharing items on our social media or working with our social media campaign to include such items? Is this something like education and outreach could work with?
yeah, what do you think, Teresa?
Well, I think we can certainly talk about how Athens should have a Vision Zero plan. And here is what a Vision Zero plan would look like and how we'd have to go about putting it in place, and the fact that we'd have to have a lot of people cooperating and buying in at all levels. And, that ultimately getting around Athens would be much safer and more pleasant for everyone, no matter what mode of transportation they choose. I think we could make a little campaign like that. Wouldn't get us in trouble.
Yeah, I think just, we don't necessarily want you guys to go and say, hey, you need to approve this position. Like that's not necessarily the mechanism. It's more like, hey, this is the importance of Vision Zero. Here's what we can do. So, um, any other comments on that?
I think that's a good start. Thank you, Daniel. I think that this takes care of our discussion for now. I know that we still have a lot of items to go through, so I guess Daniel, maybe about 12 minutes on your section.
Yeah, I'm working towards the end of mine, I think.
Cool.
So, is that are you good with me continuing?
Yes, please.
Cool. I talked with and we're gonna set up bi-monthly meetings with Mark Beatty over at NEGRC, that's the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission. They haven't done as much with us in the past, mostly because, we're a more urban community and we have staff to do a lot of planning efforts. And, as a regional commission, they're kind of there to support those who don't have the ability to do that. But we do want to kind of work with them a little bit more and just keep up to date with our different projects. So one of the things that they were working on was Winterville Complete Streets and Trails Master Plan. I believe he had a working map that I was able to look at. I don't know if I can send it to you guys, but I just kind of gave our staff perspective comments towards that plan. And he mentioned that there is upcoming public input in March, and it'll be at the depot. So when I get more information on that, I'll let you know. But that's basically, um, it just shows this is where our existing sidewalks are. This is where we want to have sidewalks. Here's where the trails are. Here's where future trails can be. They have like some dirt trails that they've like added in, and some bike routes as well. And it's just about like basically connecting the dots all within kind of Winterville. So, and I mentioned that I think it would be really helpful to also have wayfinding worked into that too, because that's really, with a community that small, it's like you can have just a few things, and as long as it all connects really well together, you can, you know, get around with good wayfinding. And I can't remember if we discussed Clayton Street bike racks in the past. Was that a request from you guys about the number of bike racks going on Clayton Street?
I thought we discussed it before, but not number necessarily.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, we were talking about it in the Grants and Data Committee as well.
Okay. Yeah, so there are 15 bike racks proposed in the plan, and I guess it starts the project scope. Let's see. It's from Lumpkin to Thomas Street, and so that's almost the bike rack on every corner. The bike racks aren't specifically at those corners, but I do have all of the kind of itemized locations, and so I can send that along to you guys if you're interested. But we did talk about in the grant committee kind of some ideas for additional bike racks. I don't know that they would be within this project. Does 15 bike racks sound like a good amount for you guys?
Each one holds how many bikes? Again?
Yeah, how big are they?
That's a great question. I'm assuming you get a few bikes on it. I'm not sure. Let me. I'll
probably at least 5, right?
Seems
I would
about
hope so.
right. That makes sense. Yeah, that seems like it should be plenty, at least for now. Yeah.
And also, as long as they're configured such that they're easily that you can lock your bike to it easily. I've seen several racks throughout the town that are a challenge to lock my bike to.
And I believe they actually approached us about this, and we already recommended the bike racks. They're using,
Okay.
I think it's the 2-point system. If I'm not mixing projects up here, it's like the vertical pole with a circle, and then it allows you to lock your bike in 2 spots to have like full security. But I did just request Diana Jackson is over that one, so she'll send it along, and I'll package all of that together and send it through an email.
All right, thank you.
And then UJ Auxiliary Services is starting up a Watch for Dogs program. There's actually there was a grant, the GOHS, I think Georgia Office of Highway Safety, and they approached us about a letter of support. I went ahead and we basically got a letter of support from the mayor for that, just because I can't do letter of support from staff perspective. We want that to make sure it comes from kind of the head of ACC, and it probably means more coming from him anyways. So, but we did get that letter of support in there. Bike Athens is also, they also did a letter of support for them as well. I think that covers everything I got. Are there any questions?
That was a little my fault, Daniel. I sent them your way. I'm within UGA Auxiliary Services. I said contact Daniel. So no, I spoke with our marketing team the other day. They were very, very appreciative.
Yeah, no, thanks for sending them over. I was really glad to hear from them. We don't usually have a lot in between, you know, UGA and ACC, so um, I'm looking forward. Hopefully, we can get that program funded.
Absolutely.
All right.
Any other questions or comments for Daniel, particularly by folks who haven't had a chance to say anything yet or haven't had a chance to speak as much? We'll move on. All right, so we'll go on to some general items and some housekeeping. And so Daniel and I were trying to get a handle on all the activities that were going on. And Daniel, I don't know how you had time to make to make this look so nice because I was
What I
really
do.
getting it out. Wow. Um,
I'll
so
just let me go ahead and preface with like I didn't finish putting in all the check marks. I was trying to run through the meeting minutes to see who was at which thing, but this is open for everybody. So if I missed the check mark by your name, it's I'm sorry. I'm kind of halfway through building it out. So but please add in extra stuff. I think it's helpful for notes and also just and with the check mark, it's easiest if you copy paste one from the existing color. But yeah. Sorry, Lauren, go ahead.
And yeah, I just shared it in our chat. Again, it's also linked on the agenda. And you all should have write permissions to this. So take a look at this. Daniel, do you have a due date or anything, or is this just kind of ongoing, trying to keep up with stuff?
Oh, I'm open to some ideas. I think this could be really helpful for us to keep track of everything we're doing, as well as when topics of discussion come up. Like I added in safe routes to schools because we have talked about that in the past. But we don't really have any momentum on it, but something like this could help us kind of keep track of the various initiatives we're working on. We can add in any other fields you see fit, and I think it's helpful to get kind of the most recent notes condensed down. I think the community challenge grant, like that description is a little longer than I would like. You know, ideally it would be like 4 lines, but once we know what we're applying for, then I can kind of cut out some of that. But we can talk about that during the grant update as well. But yeah, let me know if y'all think it's this helpful.
Actually, yeah, this is really great because we have a whole list of like things that we're supposed to do that are in the Athens in Motion plan. And I know that as we look at plan revisions and updates, we'll be looking at what we have accomplished, what is in the works, what's still a ways off, and this will be really helpful for that.
Perfect.
Okay, so y'all feel free to get into this and tweak it, add some stuff. I'm sure there's items that we were missing. Maybe we should talk about growing the commission to more people. We have had some people join our committees who are not part of the commission, and that's great.
And that was something I was gonna, should we like, we could do others in like column M, and then you just write out the names of other people who are in on that project? Okay.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I know like Cole Scott, of course, has spent a ton of time on compiling the bike lane ordinances. Sorry, this is showing up in the way. Great. Okay, so I'll stop sharing my screen, but y'all get in there. Next on the list, T-SPLOST 2023. All right, so the update is Mayor and Commission have approved their CDO. And it looks a bit different, but it's a pretty well-rounded list. Put it. You can find it on the ACC Gov website /T-SPLOST 2023. The advisory committee has become a promotional committee, which means I no longer receive the support or sanctioning from the Athens-Clarke County government. So those committee members are still meeting and they're just on their own. Teresa and I are part of that. But here on the ACC Gov website are the list of projects. So the TLDR is, they trimmed some of the Athens in Motion submitted projects for the corridor, so Atlanta Highway, West Broad Street, and Lexington. And they did that for a couple of reasons. One, to add in a project on Jefferson Road, which is, I think is like tier 2 or something like that, but still in the plan. And they also wanted to need to find a way to get some pavement maintenance in there, which they did, and they combined with the bridge project. So I would, you know, as a transportation activist or someone who's a little bit in the weeds on this stuff, I would normally get worried about trimming projects like this because we had something very specific in mind, and those do have costs, and those costs go up. However, with the federal infrastructure bill and our opportunities for raise grants, as Daniel has mentioned, I am optimistic that we will be able to provide safe, connected facilities for people who are already walking and biking and rolling along West Broad, Atlanta Highway, Lexington. So I'm still confident that that this money will help get us there. And then the Athens in Motion big bucket, so that's kind of like our general bucket for high priority transportation, high priority bike and pedestrian facilities in our plan. That's kind of been trimmed down to about $8 million, but that should get us somewhere. And there are a lot of bike ped projects in here. So all in all, I think it's a list to be very excited about educating and informing the public on. So questions before we talk about our role as a government commission?
I have a question
Yep.
right off the bat. Oh, you go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, just maybe a little off topic, but what are they doing now with this promotional committee? That wasn't the case before, was it?
What do you mean that wasn't the case before?
Well, you said you're now a non-sanctioned promotional committee. That wasn't, we didn't have a non-sanctioned promotional committee before, did we?
My words, they're not the best words. What I don't mean non-sanctioned, I mean grassroots.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, we don't get any help or support from the SPLOST office or ACC Gov because they cannot promote the vote.
Okay, got it. Gotcha.
And Athens in Motion Commission cannot promote a yes vote either.
Oh,
right.
That's my question. Like that.
The Transform
Athens in
Committee
Motion
can
say
advocate.
it's a good
Right?
idea, but okay. So Athens in Motion, what can we say? We educate and inform. This is, you know, the who, what, when, where, why, how. And I think that that we're working on in the other committee, the one that is the grassroots committee. We're working on an FAQ sheet, and I don't see any reason why Athens in Motion couldn't borrow that. Do you?
Certainly, Athens Motion could borrow it if that FAQ sheet says vote yes, probably not.
No, but the FAQ sheet wouldn't necessarily have to have that part in it.
It just put the date and the referendum on there. That's probably okay.
And what's in the T-SPLOST, and you know, what the pros, what the cons are, or however we get to say it. There aren't any cons, so just what it is.
Mark, you
Well,
had a question or comment earlier? Was someone else trying to ask a question?
I was gonna just throw in, it's not necessarily pros or cons because that kind of is advocating. I would say with a yes vote, you get these things. If you vote no, you don't get these things.
So we focus on education around what, as you say, what what this program will be impactful for.
And I really like some of the stats that I've seen you guys, the user group break down where, you know, if y'all say like number of projects that were, you know, put forth by the community, you know, number of projects that are going towards new infrastructure, like percentage wise, right? And so, you know, like pie charts that basically you'd be like, you know, this isn't just maintenance. It's not just, you know, like some of it is maintenance and, you know, we know that's not all fun and flashy, um, but a large, you know, percentage of them are for new projects. And, yeah, I think that could be really helpful.
That's a really good idea, Daniel. And that's something that I have not heard the promotional committee discuss recently. I wonder if, and this also kind of brings me to my next bullet point of subcommittee, or maybe this is something that, not to put everything on education and outreach, but maybe this is something that committee could do, like show like what percentage of these projects are bike and ped, and those numbers already exist, as you said, Daniel. Like maybe a little info sheet, or I don't know if that's a graphic that we share. I don't know. I mean,
I think
maybe.
that the message is, you know, I think hopefully the message is that it's a diverse set of projects that are not just bike pedestrian, that it's, you know, lots of other benefits for all road users. You know, I'm most worried that it looks too bike petty to the general public, and I think that could be a way of communicating that.
However, that's the role of the T-SPLOS committee, is to sell the public at large on the transportation list. As Athens in Motion commissioners, I think it's okay for us to say, here's, you know, where the bike ped or, you know, not just car centric stuff is.
Okay, fair enough.
For what it's worth.
Are we allowed to say that, you know, that Athens in Motion's funding would come from that, or should we not say that?
I mean, yeah, as from an educational standpoint, like continued implementation of the Athens in Motion plan, and then a brief overview of what that AIM plan does, and you know, kind of your elevator speech, right? 2 minutes. How do you grab someone's attention? Not necessarily like a yard sign, but like maybe like one of the like sandwich boards outside the bars, you know? Like, here's our lunch menu.
Right.
I am taking notes. How do we as a commission want to proceed? And by the way, this is going to come up very quickly. Starting March 1st, it'll be like 12 weeks before the referendum, and we meet once a month. So I think that if we were going to do anything that's about educating and informing, we should, you know, decide what we're going to do or how we're going to decide to do that soon.
Do we want to like designate the Education and Communications Committee, or do we want to just have the whole commission kind of decide on a message and then put it out on our social media? I mean, you know, what's the best way to go forward on that?
Who else is on education and communications right now?
Carly, and help me out, Daniel. My brain
And I'll-
freeze is on.
I'll be attending.
Todd, yeah, okay.
I know that y'all have a lot
Randy.
to talk about on Thursday, but could you like carve out some time to have this? And I'm going to try and make the meeting too, but to have this discussion about what you think we should do and come forth to the rest of us in late March with a recommendation.
Yeah, we can talk about that. So
Yeah.
after we're done with our consultant's presentation, then we can get into the real stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and if you want to do a subcommittee, I'm fine with that.
I don't
And
know about a
certainly-
subcommittee. I'm just saying, like, do we? I mean, we got a lot of committees, and it gets a little confusing.
We could also just do like a ad hoc meeting,
Or we
like
could like do a group edit on
or
something on our Google.
special called session is what I meant to say.
Yeah, we could do that.
And like rather than like a committee, you could just do special called session for the Athens Motion Commission as a whole and anyone who's interested. I guess it comes down to though is if we need to vote, then we would need to have a quorum. So maybe that's
Well,
not.
at that meeting, if we can just develop a message, a baseline message, and then take it out to the group here, and be voted upon. I think that would move things along quicker.
So then, Randy, are you suggesting that we have that education outreach do this, or that there be a separate committee that comes that is like a work session, like people get together as a work session and a separate meeting, and then come to the rest of the group?
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of the separate meeting in a work session, because I think that we're just starting up the education and communication. So just to get that, that big picture ball rolling, and then separately do this, the T-SPLOS communication. So yeah, have a separate meeting. Whoever wants to attend, come up with a message. We can send it out via email, and then have another meeting to vote on it.
All right. So so our meeting is Thursday. What time is it? Does anyone know? Can't remember.
Yeah, noon.
Yeah,
Noon.
that's right.
Well,
So after that, then we can try to set up, a content meeting, as an ad hoc thing.
And I'm actually going to be sending out another meeting invite because that was so the consultants put together that Zoom invite, but I'm still trying to find out from the attorney's office if we actually have to live stream that kickoff. If it is a committee meeting, then like if we're going to be voting, if there's something we could potentially vote on, then I think technically we might need to live stream, but it kind of comes down to, is this a committee meeting or is it just a consultant kickoff meeting?
I vote for let's have it be a consultant kickoff meeting. And then when we have when we set up a special called meeting, then if there's stuff we want to vote on, then we would vote then. But, let's get started without, having the pressure of all that, live streaming on. I mean, we should just talk about, what we hope to achieve with this consulting group, and, what sort of ideas we have, and then and hopefully they've looked at what we've given them so far, and they have some ideas too.
And it's not so much necessarily like whether we decide it's a committee meeting or not. I think it's like a legal question.
Okay.
So
Right, well,
I
if you have
don't.
to stream it, that's fine, I don't care, but, it's just, I
Well,
don't,
if yeah, so it's like one of those things where it's like we could record the Zoom meeting and then post it later, but that doesn't quite meet it. Or I could go ahead and just do a WebEx and then we could stream it. And then our public information office can help us streaming it because we're not going to be able to like stream Zoom.
mhm.
So,
Right.
anyways, details.
Okay, so there's a couple things going on. There's one, education and outreach is having a meeting with the consultant on 12 p.m. at 12 p.m. on Thursday, which we were considering a committee meeting, but now it might just be a consultant meeting because they gave a Zoom link, which we can't stream. So you're saying that we're going to have to redo it as WebEx?
If we want it to be live streamed, then it would need to be WebEx.
Mm-hmm.
If it is a committee meeting, then it needs to be live streamed. Does that make sense? So we don't know if it needs to be a committee meeting though, because we haven't heard back from the attorney's office.
Okay, so y'all will figure that out, and then you will decide. I guess that would be a meeting though. Who's going to decide when there's going to be a separate meeting to come up with messaging for T-Splost?
Well,
Well,
so do
I
we
was just
want to
gonna say,
just
at the end
nail
of that meeting-
nail
at
it
the
on
end
the
of that
end?
meeting, wouldn't we just like decide that we're gonna have a meeting and make it, invite the commission?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll make a WebEx, and if it's like an hour for the kickoff, I'll make it an hour and a half.
Right.
And then if anyone can stay for the extra 30 minutes, we'll have that for working through the. Is that what we were talking about, or because Randy, were you saying that you had preferred a separate committee?
But
Just
I think is 12:30 going to be challenging, or that'd be 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock be challenging for a lot of you to attend.
Not me.
Me neither. But
I won't be able to make it, but yeah, you can carry on without me.
You trust us, Aaron?
Yeah, nothing but trust for y'all.
I think what might be helpful ahead of that is if anyone who can't make it has some thoughts on the message, then go ahead and just send that in the listserv, and we could talk about it through that as well.
Will do. I've got, I think, some messaging that we used before that was successful too. So yeah.
That'd be awesome. Great.
All right, so the plan is to tack this at the end of the education and education outreach committee meeting that is Thursday at noon. So we'll move into this phase at 1 p.m. for all those who can stick around to talk about Athens in Motion's messaging for T-Splosh 2023. Great.
Okay.
Oops, I lost my agenda. Fabulous. Okay, it is 5:30. Go ahead, Daniel.
I have a meeting for 1 o'clock. So
What?
never mind. Yeah, I wasn't looking at my calendar.
Is it Steven? Can you just tell him no? I'm just kidding.
We were meeting about it's like 6 of us meeting about the fatalities on Epps Bridge overpass. So it's kind of a
Crap.
virtual RSA. Here's what we'll do. Let's just I don't know. Figure it out through maybe let's have some back and forth in the email about things that we want to cover. And then maybe we could have one person head up kind of an initial drafting, and then we can make a 30-minute committee meeting at some point.
Do that.
Okay, so in other words, we're going to take this over to email?
I don't know. I mean, unless y'all want to try to work out scheduling. I could do a doodle poll.
Why don't we just try to work through through the email thing, and let's see if we can get some coherent ideas. And then after we have our meeting with the consultants, then we can just do the doodle poll and have the ad hoc meeting, and then go from there. And that way, if there's anything that needs to be voted on, then we hopefully get enough people to show up for a quorum so we could vote on it.
Okay.
How does
The
everyone
email?
feel? Okay.
All right. Yes, I think ideally it would we would have some messaging or something out there by next month, or start getting things out there. So, because that would be 2 months before the referendum.
Like March 1st?
No, not March 1st. I mean, like April 1st, really. I don't see us
Okay.
getting anything together.
I was just making
before
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, because March 22nd or March 24th would be 2 months before the referendum. Yeah, it sneaks up on us. All right, I just sent an email to all y'all, that has the subject of ideas and thoughts about messaging for T-SPLOST 2023. So you can just start typing things in there. We'll go from there. And thank you. And we are actually on track on our agenda. I'm just going to put this out there. We have 30 minutes left, so we'll do 20 minutes for general committee stuff, and some of this we've started to go through. 5 minutes for corridor committees, and then anything else as far as committees and commissions. So I'll start with UGA. Blaine, you had mentioned that one Governor's Office Highway Safety Grant, how you kicked something over to Daniel. Anything else to report back?
Yes, actually, there's another thing that involved Daniel this month. We're tinkering with the idea of doing some type of bicycle registration on campus. It was an idea, I think, brought up by student government to auxiliary services. I think the main crux is that a lot of the bicycles are abandoned. Eventually, they become abandoned, and they're a bit of an eyesore, and then are also taking up space in the bike racks that we need to use for legitimate bicycles. So personally, I don't want to do a bicycle registration. I think it'll be difficult, and I think Daniel even mentioned too. It just it might deter some people from trying to utilize bicycles, and also there's some logistics involved of how we would handle visitors to campus and things like that. And I am all 100% for trying to attack the abandoned bicycle piece of it. We already have a system in place. It's just we deal with Bike Athens, and we donate the abandoned bicycles. It's a very long process. I think it takes about 180 days total before we can kind of remove the bicycles from campus. And let me tell you, you've guys have probably seen them. There's some that are very clearly 100% abandoned. I mean, not just no tires, no seat, no chain. They are clearly abandoned. So I'm trying to navigate some of the legalities, because I'm all for just removing them and maybe even storing them on campus or slightly off campus, just to get them out of the way and open up that space, and just make it a little bit better aesthetically for these, because the ones that are abandoned are in very, very bad shape. So we're just beginning discussion on that, and we'll see where it goes. I would certainly welcome any insight, but I think we already asked the students to register for parking permits and alternative transportation and meal plans and all this kind of stuff. So the bicycle is just another piece, and enforcing it would be very difficult also. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
Kicking around.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely not in favor of that idea. It seems like just a backdoor way to trying to get registration and more fees from cyclists, and yeah, definitely will deter
Yeah.
more cycling. Yeah, and then for a long time I was, I lived in the community. I didn't work for UGA. I wasn't in class, but I would make visits to campus because a lot of events happen on campus, meetings and whatnot. And so, there's a lot of people who are using campus who are not necessarily affiliated with the university too.
Can you set a standard so when there's a certain amount of the bicycle gone, you can just take it away?
And Mark and Aaron, thanks for your comments too. Yeah, you're right on track. This was brought to me after it was already kind of open discussion, and we worked with Bike Athens, so I'm kind of have an understanding of
Yeah.
it. And it seemed like Aaron said, it seemed like a roundabout way to do something where we're kind of, there's a direct way we can do it. And there wouldn't be a fee if we did a registration, we wouldn't charge, but I think my department actually would take on the cost of enforcing this, and it's extra work and labor. But I did find some other universities that they clearly define what is an abandoned vehicle, and they write, have the definitions out. They work with university housing and student affairs and things like that. But yeah, I think we could clearly define it, and that's my proposal, is to write some operational definitions of what is an abandoned bicycle, and then remove them and store them close by. And if somebody does want to claim it, we certainly would work with them.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that seems like a much better idea, because we've all seen bikes on campus left there for a long time, and it's clear that they're not owned anymore. And then furthermore, I've never heard of anybody complain about that their bike was seized, too soon. I think the university could be a little more aggressive on seizing abandoned bikes, and it wouldn't be a problem.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great.
So
thanks.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's it.
Okay. No, thanks. And with just one other thing on the UGA side is we're going to put out a new RFP for a bike share program. We had one years ago, or no, I'm sorry. We had something that was going to happen. We were utilizing a company that we were working with for a ride share years ago, and the ride share didn't work out very well. Something happened, it fell through with the bike share, so it kind of ended. I actually have a sign outside my office that's where it was reserved for these particular bike share only, a bike rack, that we're working towards that. So we're going to put a new RFP out to get some more interest in a new bike share program for campus.
Thanks.
Yeah, on that too. Oh, I just was going to say, as Aaron again, I know it rolled out like the week before campus shut down for COVID. It could have been worse timing. It seemed like a great program. I talked to Jason Perry about it. He was really excited. It seemed so in so many ways a great operation, but it was just terrible timing.
Yeah, the hope is that, it's a large campus and there's a lot of hills. We're encouraging people to walk, but when the pandemic hit, we had to we shortened some of the bus routes so that we could run them quicker with less people on the buses, instead of running these long stretches all the way to campus packed with 90 people. So with that, we kind of were encouraging some more walking around campus too. And we certainly want less vehicles on campus if we can get there. So yeah, the bike share I think would help. It'd certainly be better than the scooter, the bird scooter drop they did a few years ago, which was very difficult for us to manage, which wasn't an endorsed or encouraged program, that. So yeah, I'll keep you guys updated on that. It's the early stages. I actually just got one email that said, hey, I'm on the scoring committee for it, which I'm happy about and excited about, but it's just we're just at the early stages of that.
Awesome. And I know in the past, like ACC, our stance has kind of been, you guys are rolling that out, and we'll likely go with whatever bike share program you guys select, and then we could expand it kind of countywide. We didn't want two competing bike share. We know that you guys are doing a lot of work on that, so
Yeah, no, thank you. And Danny, that makes a lot of sense, and it triggers just something else, not necessarily for this committee, but one thing, I did a call a few weeks ago is we're speaking with Athens-Clarke County about electric vehicle chargers and charging stations. Working together so that we're not doubling the efforts and not putting them like one right on campus and one right downtown next to it. Let's spread them out, and let's, where everybody can use them. So it's a nice little partnership we're doing there. And we certainly need to pass that over to what you and I are talking about now with the bicycles and things like that.
No, I know, I think in the past it was discussed having like geofenced areas. Is that being revisited, or are y'all starting from scratch?
What I understand, we're starting from scratch.
Okay.
But
yeah, if we could not have geofencing, that would be cool.
Yeah, I would advise against it also because of the proximity to downtown and things like that. We want to, you want to cross those borders.
And I think there's some real good opportunities, even when you guys are doing your campus only bike share. If y'all did put one like over at the park and ride, there's the park and ride at UGA, but there's also the Oconee Street Park and Ride, and I'm sure we could talk about being able to put that there and advertising it on the Greenway, because that's part of the whole purpose of that whole section of Greenway was to improve connectivity, with that East Campus Bridge. So
yeah, that's a great idea.
Can't wait.
Exciting, Blaine. Yeah, thanks for keeping us posted on that. And thanks for your, the conversations you're having about the ramifications of registering bikes and what that means for students. And I'm excited about that there's an RFP for the new bike share. I had high hopes for it and used it a little bit, and disappointed that the vendor had to pull out, but that's the way it goes. And also, will you keep us posted on other items like related to transportation in the university, like updates to the parking situation or anything like that? And see if I'm just curious if there's ways we can interface or what that's going to look like. As more and more people come to campus and traffic continues to elevate and all that good stuff.
Sure.
There's some times where I see people in cars and they just can't move, and I'm just walking by.
Yeah, and and Lauren, I think you're over near Terry over there, and we're experiencing high volume in that whole street parking deck next to Terry College. And it's a lot of students, and it's a visitor / permit. It's a multi-use deck facility. But one thing we're having a very difficult time controlling it because students, they're willing to pay and they're just flooding it. So we're just trying to kick around new ideas to reduce demand, and nobody wants it, but the one easy way to reduce demand is to raise the daily parking rate, not for the permit holders, but for visitor parking, because it's a high demand area. But we need to reduce the amount of vehicles. But the other part is harder to attack, but it is good, is reducing the amount of, we call them single occupancy vehicles. It's just one person. They pull in one person behind them, just one person in each of these cars. If we could get them to kind of carpool or work something like that out, it would certainly reduce the amount of vehicles on campus. So because we're not getting more parking, we're not really, we're losing a lot next month in the middle of campus where the new poultry science complex is going. But
yes. I'll say this, and I don't mean to take up our meeting with all of this, but I do wonder if parking services have ever looked into lots that offer spaces by day, like you buy a day. Like I have a parking spot for Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays, Thursdays, because then I think what it is you have to commit to parking or not. So I'm just wondering if there's any sort of in between that people could do.
Yes, absolutely. And we looked at that a while ago. It needs to be revisited. We looked at a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday permit, or one that's just Tuesday, Thursday, because that's kind of follow the class schedule a little bit. It didn't work or didn't make sense back when we did it, but it was probably 8 or 9 years ago. It with the current climate, it probably needs to be reevaluated. And sorry, yeah, I'll take all the time. If we want to do a special called session just talking about parking on campus, I'm happy to do that too.
Careful, because I kind of want to do that. Okay. All right. So maybe we'll have a conversation about that sometime.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, great idea though. Yeah.
All right,
I'm sorry. I'm curious where the poultry sciences building is going.
It's going right north of Boyd Grad Studies. It's kind of right in the heart. When I look up, I'm looking at a map. It's right in the heart of campus, right north of Boyd Grad and kind of by Dawson and Spears Hall. It's D.W. Brooks Drive. There's a greenway there now.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a parking lot, and the building is going. Yeah.
Yeah.
The building is going right on top of the parking lot, just a little north of that. Let's see, a little north.
Yeah, the
right
Boyd Grad Studies lot.
Boyd Grad Studies lot.
Yeah.
Got it.
That parking lot right just south of that, where the blue. Yep, right there. That's a parking lot, and it's going right on top of that. It's going to start, I think, next month.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. Well, chickens are important.
Oh yeah. Cool. Daniel, I'm glad you asked about that because yeah, I'm glad we could get Blaine to answer.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a little weird, right where we're over, there's a little pathway that cars used to drive over across this vehicle. Okay, there's a van right there. That's a sidewalk. That shouldn't be there. But so that'll be not where that van is, but right where your marker is. That'll be eliminated a little bit once the building goes up. If you keep turning around, you can see the other building there. Yeah, that little driving lane. Which will be nice, because I can't for the life of me understand why we ever allow people to drive across the sidewalk like that, especially between classes. And it's a main thoroughfare up to chemistry area, Ag Hill.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, the building boom at UGA continues. I thought we were almost through with our big era of building expansion, but thanks for that update, Blaine.
No problem.
All right. Back to our committees. So grants and data, I know on the agenda I just put America Walks. I meant to fill in more based on your minutes and stuff, so I'm sorry that I didn't, because I know y'all talked about more than that, but go ahead, give us an update.
Yeah, so there's so America Walks, is that the blinky flashy? We've never heard anything from them, so that's as far as I know, that just will never happen. We got a presentation about People for Bikes grant proposal. Those are about 20,000, I think, if I remember right. And Peter Norris, who is currently on the Prince Avenue Corridor Committee and an advocate for cycling, is offering to write the grant. And we were talking about ideas. One of the ideas was lane separators, so temporary lane separators that can be used to, show what protected bike lanes would look like. They're very cool. They're basically like a curb, like the curb you might see at the end of a parking spot, but they have a channelized underneath. They're temporary. They link together. You can plug signs into them. They almost look permanent. And they're about, 4 or 5 inches tall, so they are an actual physical barrier. So by buying those, the idea was we could use those in places like East Broad, as you go up that hill on East Broad, to see what a bike lane would look like there. And on Prince Avenue, as we think about the changes on Prince Avenue that are coming up. So Daniel is working on getting quotes. There's also an ARP grant opportunity. Looks like they fund an average of about $11,000 a project. We were thinking, because of its ARP, trying to do something around Council on Aging, possibly a raised crosswalk with a blinky flashy. Here's time for you to go like this. And and also possibly a speed table on Hoyt Street, which has a big downhill by the Bethel Homes redevelopment. You get pretty high speed traffic coming down there. So some things around there that'll facilitate walking by folks at the Council on Aging. They do use the path, which is great. I do see groups from the Council on Aging every day walking down Pulaski. So they do the loop where they go up by Pulaski Heights Barbecue, that little greenway stretch, and down Pulaski and then back down. So it is an area and then the other idea was possibly planning for a multi-use path that would connect from the Council on Aging up to the Denny Towers, that's been in the Greenway Network plan for a long time. but at least planning, getting some planning done for that. We also talked, apparently GDOT has some opportunities for getting blinky, flashy, items that Daniel is trying to find out about. Apparently the GDOT is providing some funding to buy those. And then we talked about the RAISE grant, which we've already talked about.
Yeah,
Go
to
ahead.
be more specific, the RRFBs through GDOT, it's kind of a process we do with the road safety audit, where once we have gone, visited, we justify, we can actually request from GDOT to buy RRFBs for those locations. And so we've been doing that. We've been able to get a couple, I think, or at least we have a couple applications in. I can get some info from Stephen on that if you are interested. But basically, yeah, there's other opportunities for getting RRFBs, and we've talked with them, and they're okay with buying like our specific ones, and they don't necessarily have like, okay, we'll buy them, but they have to be a certain brand. Like they'll buy the one that is our standard. So they've been really great.
Something I'm just going to put out there, and I don't want to like lead y'all astray, but so a project centered on the Council on Aging is great, but I think that AARP is also interested in just improving walkability in general, because anything that focuses on making stuff more safe for most vulnerable users will be good for our retirees. And the reason why I just bring that up is they're a major sponsor of the America Walks program, which I was part of, and I had to step back from it because of I was doing T-Splosh. So just to put that out there, you could look at things beyond that potentially.
We definitely had a much broader conversation, and we were talking about, that's one idea. We were also talking about those, benches along the Firefly Trail was another thing that came up, the new section of the Firefly, and the new sections of the Greenway down by the river and the parts going through the cemetery. Be nice to provide benches, because as you get older, it's nice to sit down once in a while. So, I think those are, and they're just good for community, building. So that's something they do fund a lot of benches. Their last cycle, they funded over 600 benches, I guess. So.
Yeah, that's great. And I do see folks using our benches along the Firefly Trail.
Yeah, regularly.
Yep, taking a rest. So, all right, thank you guys. Looking forward to seeing what comes of that. Policy committee, I'll give just a real quick update. So Erin had put together our Complete Streets presentation, and now it is on Lauren to update the visuals for that. So Lauren needs to get to that. And we're still going through the bike lane ordinances. And I have not put our next meeting on here, so sorry about that. I'll turn it over to education and communications, which you've heard a little bit about, but now let's hear the rest. Teresa.
Well, there really isn't a whole lot left to say at this point. Now, if I could predict the future and talk about tomorrow's meeting, I would do that. Can't do, sorry. So you'll have to wait for that. But yeah, but we're excited because we'll be meeting with that consultant and starting to get some ideas rolling in. So it's really going to help us a lot.
Excited. And you mean Thursday's meeting, right? It's on Thursday. That's 2 days.
You know what? Yeah, I don't do dates,
How many meetings do you have this week, Teresa?
Beats me. It's like I just look at the phone and I say, okay, where am I now? And it tells me.
Teresa and I are going to see each other every day this week.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm very excited for that meeting.
Yeah, me too.
Any updates from any of the corridor committees? I'll open the floor.
Nope.
Well, that was easy. T-Splost, we did not meet this week. So, I mean, T-Splost 2018 did not meet this week. Daniel, do you have any updates from the Greenway Commission?
I don't think so. They are they're just doing playing stuff in the background. And yeah, I haven't really been super in the loop on the other committees and stuff. So I think Todd covered most of those updates.
Gotcha. All right, it is 5:54. Any other business? Anything we missed? It seems like the Firefly ticket to ride is going to happen in March.
Ooh.
Just going to put that out there. I think one of these days I'd like to get more organized and have a presence at things like this, but we're just a busy group and it's hard to do that. But I'm going to put that out there. I know that's coming up. Of course, the ticket to ride goes from Athens to Union Point. You can start at any point. And that's really cool because it helps raise awareness for our bike highway, which will be continuous to Winterville and ultimately to Union Point at some point. So, yeah. Any other events coming up?
Nothing I can think of.
Wow. Okay. So I will end this meeting. Our next one is March 22nd at 4 p.m. And yeah, so give you all back 4 minutes of your night.
All right.
Very good.
Have a good night. Stay safe.